Module 5. Well, that last module was something, wasn't it? Bringing out all that talent. And from where? From another universe? From a twin you? Do I expect you to believe all that? Well, friend, not necessarily. And you know why? Because I'm not sure I believe it. Oh, I believe that the eminent physicists and Nobel laureates believe it. That doesn't necessarily make it so, does it? I'm sort of a realist myself, and I like to go by one rule only. Does it work? Well, I do believe it works. No, that's not right. I know it works. When you believe, that's faith. Faith in the idea that something is going to happen in a certain way. Faith is when you don't have any actual proof. When I say I know, that has nothing to do with belief. Not when I know. Now, how do I know? Only one answer to that: I've done it. And so there's the proof, isn't it? And I've seen other people do it successfully too. If I use the idea of doppelgangers in parallel universes and have gotten some benefit from it, then I would know, because I did it and it worked. Before I decided to teach the concept and the techniques, I used it myself. I used it 4 times, actually. It worked every time. As I've said, the first time was in writing, then there was singing, then there was photography, and then there was art. Quantum jumping, almost every time. I became a writer, a singer, a photographer, and an artist. But I always ask myself that question: is this all just psychological? Or is the doppelganger some sort of a magic entree into that other dimension? As long as it worked, I didn't really care. And then I used it to dance, tap dance. Never could, but always wanted to. Well, the doppelganger didn't help me a bit there. I never did learn how to tap, and after my tap teacher told me I seemed to have 2 left feet, I figured that, well, this doesn't work every time. But that knowledge was tempered by the fact that I also learned that the concept gives me the confidence to use it and to unlock things that are locked inside. And if something doesn't work, it doesn't mean that the technique doesn't work. It just means it didn't work that time. And that's a very good thing. I never thought, after not succeeding with dancing, that PDQ doesn't work. As I said, it just didn't work that time, for whatever the reason. I'm not meant to be a tap dancer. And my attitude is, well, then it's not meant to be. PDQ will bring out your hidden talents, but there has to be a seed to begin with. If the seed is there, PDQ will help it sprout and flower. To use the concept, to get that seed germinating, you must learn to use more of your mind. And so with this module, you're going to learn to use more of your mind. And when you do that, of course, you'll be better at whatever you do. Now, why is using more of your mind important? Well, consider this. Whatever you are, whether you're a cook, a tailor, an insurance agent, an attorney, a student, a teacher, a business person, a minister, military, whatever, it stands to reason that if you use more of your mind, you'll be better at whatever it is that you do. There have been many eminent scientists who have stated that the average person uses only 2% of the potential of their mind. Brilliant people are simply those people who've learned to use more of their minds. Also, I believe that when you visit your doppelganger, you'll want to be using more of your mind so that you can be more successful with the PDQ concept. The more that you use your mind, the more successful that you'll be. In this module lesson, you're going to learn to use more of your mind so that you'll have a better understanding of the process involved. Before learning how to use more of your mind, let me show you how to use less of it. Sometimes it's easier to understand the thing when you look at both sides of it. We're going to look at the back side of this. So let's discover when you are using less of your mind. I'm going to talk to you now about brain waves, and I'll soon bring it all together. But for you to really understand this concept, you should know something about the electrical energy that your brain produces and how it's affected by your emotions. The electrical currents of the brain are measurable. There's even a device to measure brain waves. You probably heard of this device. It's called an electroencephalograph, or EEG mechanism. Brain waves start at about half cycle a second frequency and go up from there, beyond 30 cycles a second. The medical community has delineated the various areas of brainwave frequency into 5 segments. The commonly known names are delta, theta, alpha, beta, and gamma. Gamma waves have nothing to do with this discussion, as they're thought to bind neurons together. Now that's important, but it's not pertinent at this time. Simply put, delta is an area of deep sleep, theta an area of deep relaxation, alpha is an area of general relaxation and meditation, while beta is your normal awake state. The ideal relaxed state would be alpha. Alpha is also an emotion-free state. The ideal brainwave frequency when you're relaxed and meditating would be 10 cycles a second. That's alpha. Your brain produces frequencies. 10 cycles is the alpha frequency. When you're awake, the ideal brainwave frequency would be approximately 21 cycles per second. That's beta. We live, work, and play in a beta world. The beta world is a world of emotions. You want to do your thinking in the alpha world, the emotion-free world. You'll find that when you visit your doppelganger, you'll be as emotion-free as you can get. When you go to a parallel world and you're in alpha, your emotions are neutral. And that's important, as you'll see. What determines the frequency of your brain waves are these emotions. Any emotion affects your brain waves. Now let me define an emotion as we use the term, because it might be different from what you think it is. An emotion is any thought that has like or dislike attached to it. The more like, the more emotional. The more dislike, the more emotional. And so we conclude that what determines the frequency of your brain waves is the degree of your emotion at the time of the measurement. The higher the frequency of your brain waves, the less your mind is in use. In other words, to use less of your mind, just raise your brain waves. And here's how to do it. Let's take 2 of the most common emotional states, anger and fear. Anger has a variety of degrees. Anger could be annoyance, irritation, resentment, and growing higher on the scale, anger, when not contained, ultimately turns into rage and fury. The higher up the scale, the more elevated the brainwave. So if your normal brainwave frequency is 21, and you get a little angry and say that your brainwave frequency rises to, 30 or so, you get irritated and so concentrated on the person who made you angry, it's difficult to think about anything else. You begin to use less of your mind. Think about a time you were angry. You used less of your mind at that point. Now, when the anger turns into rage and you're furious, up go the brain waves again. When you're furious, you stop thinking. And now you're using very little of your mind. Use so little of your mind when you reach the stages of rage and fury that you no longer consider consequences. And when a person doesn't consider consequences, big trouble. Big, big trouble. This is the area of very high brainwave frequency. Fear would be the same. When fear turns into panic, you use very little of your mind. People in a state of panic run into walls, jump into oceans, and follow crowds to places they're unfamiliar with, all because their minds stopped working. So then, how do you use less of your mind? Well, do something that raises your brainwave frequency. Something that happened very recently at Thanksgiving, just a few days ago, as we record this. There was a Walmart in the United States, and you might have heard about it on TV or radio, or you might have read about it on the internet, where People were standing outside waiting for what they call Black Friday, trying to get in to get the bargains. 5 o'clock in the morning, the day after Thanksgiving. That's the day that everybody shops, apparently. And there were so many people outside that when the door opens, they were so frustrated and so intent on getting in that the guard that was opening the door was knocked down, stomped, and died, unfortunately. And now they're looking for the people who ran over him because they used so little of their mind they didn't realize they were doing. That's using less of your mind. They were also emotional. They did not consider consequences, even when it cost the life of a person. Now, with that statement, you've learned the secret of how to use less of your mind. And if you know how to use less of your mind, then you also know how to use more of your mind. If when you want to use less of your mind, you raise your brainwave frequency, then it stands to reason that if you do something that lowers your brainwave frequency, instead of asking the question, how do I use more of your mind, you would do better to ask, how do I lower my brainwave frequency? And the end result is you're using more of your mind. So if you were to ask me how to use more of your mind, I would just simply say, lower your brainwave frequency. And now, of course, you have to ask, well, how do I do that? Aha, now we get into it. How to lower your brainwave frequency. It would be easier to understand if we compare brain frequency with the beat of your heart. The normal beat would be, let's say 65 beats per minute. When you're active, your pulse rate or heartbeat would, of course, rise. At rest, your heartbeat goes down. If we were to call the brain frequency a beat, then the average beat would be 21 times a second. That would be during the normal range of activity when you neither particularly liked what you were doing, nor did you dislike it. Remember, like and dislike are emotions and will cause your brain's beat to slow or to speed up. The open door to success in lowering your brain waves and using more of your mind is relaxation. The ultimate relaxation would be getting your brain waves down to 10 cycles a second. That's alpha. Actually, that's the middle of alpha. The road to alpha is our universal icon, the Bhaga. If you've been to one of my seminars or you've investigated any of my other programs, you're familiar with the Bhaga, but it does bear repeating as we get constant reports of people using the Bhaga for a multitude of things, but most of all to initiate the states of relaxation and meditation. When you're relaxed, and especially when you're meditating, you're pretty much emotion-free. If you can be neutral with respect to emotions, you'll be using more of your mind. But back to the Bhaga. I've mentioned it before in another module here, but it bears repeating. I myself was initiated into the use of the Bhaga, an ancient yogi technique, many years ago when I was a practicing monk. The year was 1951. My mentor was a brother monk who told me of many, let's say, secret things of the order, with the Bhaga standing out among them. I was asked to keep the technique and the practice of it to myself for 50 years. At the time, I was in my 20s, and 50 years seemed like an endless amount of time. But years and decades slipped by, and here it is, 57 years later. It now gives me great pleasure to pass the technique on to you. It's a simple technique. With your mouth closed, just touch the roof of your mouth with the tip of your tongue. I usually touch the gum line inside my teeth, but others go for the middle of the palate. Either will do. Before you use the Bhaga, you must have some sort of an intention. Intent is what makes it work. Intent is the instigating factor. Somehow, when you have a thought in your mind, and then you touch the roof of your mouth with your tongue, just for a second, the thing happens. Now, it doesn't happen every single time, but it happens often enough to make you feel that you've got a little bit of control over your life. You might say that it's a trigger. And when you set it off, it tells your mind to come to attention. Something is about to happen. As the mind has been given an order, electromagnetic energies are released to either reject or attract the outcome. You'll find the Bhaga programming in many of the quantum jumping exercises in this program. Now, here's another way to use the Bhaga. Say that you're getting angry over something and you don't want to be angry. If it's your intention to be calm, just say to yourself, calm or anger dissolve, and touch your tongue to the roof of your mouth. And just like that, you'll find the anger disappearing. You can use the Bhaga for a great many other things as well. A lot of our graduates say that, report, I should say, that they use it if they're looking for a parking place in a crowded market. Now, you might find one by chance, but if you use the Bhaga while thinking about a parking place, that sets intent in motion. You're more likely to get it. Now then, does that sound silly? It would seem so. Put your tongue to the roof of your mouth and parking places open for you? It does sound silly, I admit it. Or using the Bhaga to get a good place at a restaurant or a good seat at a theater or on a plane? It all sounds silly. Try it. You'll surprise yourself. It flies in the face of logic. But so does my painting, writing, photography, not to mention my singing. But there it is. Use it, then form an opinion. Don't try to understand it. I don't. And I've been using the Bhaga for decades. The Bhaga has thousands of uses. The more you use it, the more confident you'll be in getting the thing that you want. The Bhaga is also a necessary resource when we get to the programming of your PDQ mentor or your doppelganger. But when you use it, parking places, restaurants, and things like that, insignificant things, if it doesn't work when you're doing it, don't think the Bhaga doesn't work. It just didn't work that time. Use it again. You'll find the percentage of getting what you want will rise. Okay, next we're going to be once again programming the Bhaga because you'll be using it when we get more into utilizing the energies of our parallel selves in a parallel world. So please find yourself a comfortable place where you'll be undisturbed for 15 minutes or so, and we'll begin to program the Bhaga for you to use from this time on. We do a lot of programming with the Bhaga, but we understand that the reason for all this programming of the Bhaga and the programming for the doppelganger is we want this to really be set in your mind so that when you do use it, your intent, your intention, what you intend to do, your goal accomplished, will be automatic for you. We want you to use the Bhaga as soon as you get angry. You don't have to think about it. Boom, there it is. So we want to program it a few times for you. During the Alpha mental conditioning exercise, you're going to find yourself in front of the transit door also. On the other side of the door is a parallel dimension with your twin self, your doppelganger. Now this self is already successful with the skill that you're looking for. So imagine this self giving you instruction and the energy to become successful at what you seek. And when this becomes just automatic, well, let's take me. It's pretty much automatic for me. I formally go to Alpha, probably once a day anyway, but sometimes I will be walking down the street or I'll be driving and I'll kind of daydream myself in front of the door and jump into another dimension and have a little conversation with a doppelganger to help me to do something that I want to do. Does it work? Seems to. It's been working for me for, I don't know how many decades. At least 30 years, probably more like 50. But at any rate, here we go. Find yourself a comfortable position, and we're going to do a PDQ mental conditioning exercise, an alpha exercise. So just relax, and we'll get started.